Welcome to the Six Pennies podcast. Today it's me and Mock. Albie can't join us, but make sure to check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Twitter. Quick note before we get started today from our previous podcast with Albie, got some post-production notes that we messed up on since it was a last-minute podcast. Kind of embarrassing. We both talked about the new Oceans movies coming out. We talked about the different ones that we heard about, and turns out it's just one and the same. And also, I kind of said Gone Girl won a lot of awards. It didn't, but that's fine. Got nominated for a few things. Anyway, we're back here with another edition of our debates one-on-ones. Today we have two topics, and so we'll go ahead and get started. Our first one is the Hardaways, Tim Hardaway versus Penny Hardaway. Give you guys a little bit of background. Mock and I have known each other since we were, 4 or 5 years old. We went to church together, and one of the things that we did the most at church, besides praying and stuff, was trading basketball cards. And so when we were young, for whatever reason, Mock became a huge fan of Penny Hardaway, and I became a huge fan of Tim Hardaway, and we collected those cards. I don't know if mine was just because Tim had the same name as me, but there it is. That's why I love Tim Hardaway, and we're gonna debate the two today and talk about why Tim or Penny is the best. Mock, since you're the guest, why don't you go first?
Actually, that's a good point. I always wondered about that. I was going to ask you that today, how your love for Tim Hardaway even started. But the same name thing, I guess, makes sense.
Yeah, we were kids, right? So somebody with my name, of course I like them. But I have more reasons coming up.
Well, was he known as Timmy Hardaway at all? Did anyone call him Timmy?
Maybe I did. I don't know if anybody else
maybe
did.
Just you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Penny, for me, my love for him started way back. Let me see. So my first sports memory ever, my first NBA memory, was during the 1994 NBA Finals. I have no recollection of any NBA games or any NBA players or anything before that point. So that was also right around the time that Penny got drafted, and he was first coming in the league, and he took the league by storm. He was on a ton of NBA on NBC triple-header games. I remember that, the doubleheader and triple-headers on Sundays. So I would catch all of his games, and I just fell in love with him. To me, well, I didn't even know about Magic Johnson back then, but he was like the second coming of Magic Johnson. He had the length, he had the size, he could post up smaller players, he had the vision. He really was the only one during that time. I mean, this was the very tail end of, I guess, Magic Johnson's career before his comeback, but he was the guy who perfected the no-look pass to me.
Oh.
So I modeled my basketball game after him and everything. And he was just one of those guys that I think he's one of the biggest what-if players. If we're talking about players who just got taken down by injury way too early, I think he's kind of the prototype. And even to this day, it's kind of looking back, I know ESPN just did like a 30 for 30 and called This Magic Moment on that Magic team that my Rockets actually beat. So during that time, I mean, of course I was training hardcore for my Houston Rockets, but at the same time, watching that ESPN 30 for 30, I think there was this past year in 2016, I just felt bad for them. Like a part of me felt guilty that the Rockets kind of broke up what could have been a dynasty. And I know you were cheering for the Rockets during that time. What do you think of that NBA Finals?
I don't feel guilty at all. I feel great. I'm a true Rockets fan, so I don't feel any guilt. No, in all seriousness, that was an awesome team. They were stacked. They were the first. Maybe not the first, but they were a team that was just so long at every position, something that teams are doing now. Like Dennis Scott was like 6'8", Nick Anderson was like 6'9". Those were their swingmen, and obviously Penny's was 6'7". And that's, I agree that he was great for probably 3 or 4 years there, especially when he was on the Magic, and it's unfortunate that his career was derailed by injury. But that's really the reason why I wouldn't pick him over Tim Hardaway, or I don't think he's better. I don't know. Did Penny have any playoff success or anything after Shaq left?
He did. He carried that Orlando team, and then he got traded to the Suns. That was the very tail end of his prime, I'd say. So the first of his knee injuries happened in like 97, which was his third or fourth season. And it was just kind of all over after that. The thing is with Penny, I think back then, like he was just ahead of his time, even from an injury standpoint. So like Dr. James Andrews, we all know him today as like the guy to go to for knee injuries. And he even said, back then Penny's injury couldn't be diagnosed just due to like technical failures from a medical imaging standpoint. So he had this injury or countless knee injuries, and they really couldn't pinpoint what was going on. Finally, I mean, he had a total of 6 knee surgeries throughout his career, including microfractures. So I feel like if he played during this time and he had the technology that he had today, like he would have totally been able to bounce back. But back then they didn't know, because he didn't have this like horrific, like kind of, Willis McGahee moment, or like just total knee tear. It was just kind of one of those things that just lingered there, and the pain would come and go.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt that he's a big what if career guy. For me though, the reason why Tim Hardaway's better is just because the length of his career is so much stronger. And so just looking at the total numbers, I'm more of a numbers guy, but when I look at all that, I think he just far exceeds Penny, not just from the total, but also just his peak was really strong too. He came to the league in the early 90s. He was on some really exciting run TMC teams with the Warriors with Mitch Richmond and Chris Mullin. And they were just exciting. He had that killer crossover, which is one of those moves. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I try to learn that, like when I was playing on my driveway, until I realized my destiny.
I definitely remember that. You got me on it too. I tried to copy it as well.
I realized my destiny as like a old man basketball pickup player. But anyway, that killer crossover was awesome. He averaged like 22 and 10 for his ages 23 to 26 season, his first 3 or 4 years in the league. 22 and 10. That's like,
wow.
That's like Chris Paul, right?
Yeah, I think that's right around.
It's pretty outstanding.
Kind of brings up kind of Steve Nash numbers, his MVP year.
Steve Nash never hit 20 points a game. I think he's like 18 or 19. Anyway, maybe not quite as strong as assist, but actually Tim Hardaway had a big knee injury too in like 93 or 94. He missed a whole year. Same thing like you're talking about. I think later they realized it was like an ACL, but he came back a year later, and his next 4 or 5 years he was like 18 and 8. So it's not bad at all. He made 5 All-Star teams, 5 All-NBAs, which I had no idea, even on the first team once.
I had no idea until just
first
now.
First team All-NBA, I had no idea. So I don't know. That's pretty strong. Top 15 all-time in assists. He was on those Heat teams that were pretty exciting, or not exciting, but they were pretty good with Pat Riley and Zoe. And then he was also really clutch. I don't know if you remember, but I just felt like he always killed the Rockets. There's that one game where Vernon Maxwell catches the inbounds off the backboard and makes the turnaround 3 to win it. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, the play right before that is Tim Hardaway going to the baseline, hitting like a 22-foot turnaround fadeaway and knocking it down to put the Warriors up. So I remember watching that.
I do not remember that.
I watched it.
I'll have
I was
to go
like,
back and check that.
Are you kidding me? And then Mad Max saved the day. Please don't fact check. Also, that might be wrong. But anyway, anything else?
Also, let me just note that I love that we have like stat corrections now. It just makes this podcast feel so official already.
This is official. This is real. Well, one other thing on Penny though, Lil Penny. The Chris Rock and Tyra and the commercials. That was awesome. That was really fun at the time. It gave like a lot of great personality. But I feel like the reason they had to do that is because Penny didn't really have a personality.
That is fair.
Yeah.
That is very fair. And I think Nike, I can't remember. I mean, I still to this day read anything that comes up online about Penny Hardaway. So I know that was kind of their main emphasis. He kind of let his game do the talking. He was kind of soft spoken, especially next to Shaq in those early years. He is just kind of happy being in the background. But Little Penny, I'm glad you brought that up, because to this day, I look up Little Penny like action figures on eBay every now and then and get really, really close to buying it. And my family actually does this Secret Santa thing every Christmas now. So come to think of it, I think I'm going to add Little Penny to my wish list for next year. But it was just that. So today I'm reading, and you're telling me all this stuff about Timmy Hardaway's career stats, and they're actually pretty incredible. I had no idea he had made that many All-Star games, that many All-NBA is very impressive. In reference, like Penny had 4 All-Star appearances and 3 All-NBA, including 2 first teams, and those are all like in his first 2 or 3 years, which like I said, he took the league by storm right when he got into the league. But the thing is, like, Little Penny, I'm glad you brought him up because that just kind of proves my point. Like Little Penny and all the hoopla around that, like with Chris Rock and the posters and the shoes, like Penny was just more of an icon. Like to this day, I mean, I feel like if you mention Hardaway, people are going to think you're talking about Penny. Like I'm going to say the casual fan has no idea who Tim Hardaway is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue against that. I mean, Penny is definitely more popular. I'm just saying that Tim is underappreciated, and his numbers speak for themselves. Like I think he was probably better. Sounds like we got a pretty good argument on both sides. Let's move on to the next thing before we get too derailed by the Hardaways. I mean, the one last thing I'll say about Penny is that he started your strange infatuation with guys on the Magic who were number 1, from Tracy McGrady to Gilbert Arenas to Ray Allison. We'll talk about that on a different pod. Anyway.
Trevor Ariza.
Sorry, I forgot.
It is crazy, yeah.
All right, so our second debate for the day is going to be Taylor Swift versus Katy Perry. Mock, why don't you give everybody a quick intro to the feud between the two? I know a little bit about them, but never really knew exactly what was going on. So tell us.
Okay, I will try to be as brief and concise as possible. It's going to be hard. With both of these topics today, like Penny Hardaway and Katy Perry, I could talk about them forever. So let me know if I'm going overboard. Feel free to cut me off. So the whole Katy Perry, Taylor Swift beef, they used to be really good friends. And then I think, in my opinion, obviously I'm not some sort of insider. Well, I might consider myself one. But their beef started when when Katy Perry dated John Mayer after Taylor Swift dated him.
Right.
So from that point on, I feel like Taylor kind of held it against Katy, and she was just looking for any reason to like kind of lash out. Fast forward a couple of years, Katy Perry was going back on tour, and some of Taylor Swift's backup dancers were originally on Katy Perry's kind of squad. They toured with Katy Perry before, but when Katy Perry stopped touring, they asked Katy if they could sign off for a while and join her tour, and she was like, yeah, cool, whatever. But now that she was going back on tour, they asked Taylor kind of the same thing. They weren't even really dancing I think at that point. Taylor fired them on the spot, got really pissed, threw a fit, and that's how publicly, at least, the whole feud started.
Okay, so the feud is over a guy and over backup dancers. Is there any other big thing between the two?
Well, pretty much from that point on, there's just a bunch of subtle jabs in between. Yeah. But no, that is, I would say those two are the biggest things.
Okay, got it. So that's the beef. So why do you like Katy more?
So if you knew me if we did this podcast, like, let me see, maybe 8-9 years ago, back in 2008, 2009, back when I'll refer to her as like OG Taylor, like the original Taylor Swift with her Fearless album back in 2008. I was definitely a bigger fan than anyone I knew. Like I loved all those songs. You had the Fearless song, of course. You had Love Story. I pretty much played that on repeat. I think at KP whenever I was at work on my laptop. I didn't even put headphones in. Nobody cared because everyone loved her. I think I started to realize that how fake she was during all the award shows after that point. So the thing that annoys me the most was after every single award show, no matter what it was, I mean, she'd be winning. She was on a roll. I mean, her career was definitely on the rise, and she had that
genuine
just wide
surprise,
open,
genuine surprise on her face, right?
like surprise. Yeah, like if you look that up on Google, like there's like thousands of those pictures, and they're all different. None of them are photoshopped. It just got super annoying for me because
Well,
like once
what's
she
fake
was gonna
about that
win,
then? I mean, if they're different every time, they must be real.
no, they're not real. That's the thing. I think she's super fake.
Okay.
And that just carried on to, you know, her beef with Kanye as well, which
Yeah.
I also loved this past year.
Yeah. Okay, so why is Katy better besides, Taylor being fake?
So Katy Perry, I didn't really even realize myself that I loved Katy Perry until her Super Bowl show. I think it was Super Bowl 49. That was the Super Bowl between the Patriots and Patriots and
Seahawks.
the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'll tell you that game. The only thing I actually watched were the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and the halftime show. So that halftime show was that good. Like we threw like a big Super Bowl party. I set up a craps table there, and I was like the dealer and everything, getting everyone hyped about it. But then the halftime show came on, and everyone stopped what they were doing. Like all the talking stopped. All eyes were glued on the TV, and it was just the most amazing show. And I realized from that show that I didn't know it, but I actually liked all of her songs. And she just knows how to go big, I feel like, which is why that, in my opinion, was the best Super Bowl halftime show I've ever seen.
So one interesting thing about Katy Perry that I didn't know is that little kids love her. I had no idea that they love her music, but my nieces love singing Roar, and so that's pretty cool.
I need to meet your nieces now. Man, that is exciting.
Yeah, you guys would be best buds. It's interesting that you had a craps table at the Super Bowl and you didn't watch the Super Bowl. I feel like if people were playing craps because they didn't watch the Super Bowl, of course they were going to watch the halftime show. That's probably like the only reason why they were there.
I mean, not to brag, but I think the only reason they were there was because of the craps table.
Yeah,
we did this huge thing where we have like raffle tickets and everything. So it's not just a craps table. I think we had blackjack table as well, and you could bet on the game and get more raffle tickets. So it was a big hoopla.
One of these days, I'll go to Houston for the Super Bowl just to.
Yeah, February, a couple weeks.
For that. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, well, here's where I am with Taylor. I'm for Taylor Swift. I was introduced to her. I was introduced to her music in college when she was probably 15, I guess. One of my friends told me about this up and coming country star or country singer who like wrote her own music, played the guitar, and sang it. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. She's only 15 years old. And like you said, like those first couple albums, Teardrops on My Guitar, Tim McGraw, those songs were so great. Yeah. I thought it was just really impressive, her talent. And then, like you said, those next couple albums between Fearless and Speak Now, those are really good too. I think around Red, I think was the album before 1989, is where she, sold out a little bit and moved to more of a pop feel. But I think that was a recognition of what she could do and who she could become. I think it's just impressive that she's pivoted to an artist that creates music that is loved by so many different people. Like the 1989 hit had 3 number ones on it, and I don't know, it's just impressive what she's done with her career, and her songs are still really catchy. She obviously is very successful. She's the highest paid musician, like $170 million last year on the Forbes list. She's won 7 Grammys. I mean, she's popular, and if you don't want to be on the bandwagon with somebody who's popular, that's fine. But I still think she's, she makes great music. She is just talented. And then although she's had some of those PR mistakes out there, she's just like a cultural icon, like the whole Squad thing from a couple years ago. And on her tour, I went to her first show in LA, and she had like special guests that were just coming on stage. Like Kobe came on the stage during her concert. So I don't know. She just has such a pull and such a magnetism about her that just makes her so popular.
Maybe it's just a matter of perspective, because I think you can call it like a career pivot, That's one word. I would just say like, because I mean, like I said earlier, like I love that early stuff when she was writing all her own stuff, and you know is kind of more country than anything else. But she didn't stay in her lane. Like I feel like she still doesn't really know her identity, and yeah, sure, she's still selling CDs and selling songs and stuff. But I mean, if I were to compare her to like an NBA player, it's the reason I don't like her is the same reason I don't like Stephen Curry, and I don't know if it's the same reason as Albert has. I know he hates Stephen Curry. I won't go as far as hate for Curry, but like in the same way back in Curry's Davidson days, like I loved him. I loved cheering for him as an underdog in March Madness and everything. But like something just changed, and I don't understand how people still view Curry and Swift as this like cute, innocent, like just humble hero, you know, like when they're not.
Taylor,
I think that's.
Come on, man. What? Taylor and Steph are so humble. Man, you and Albie, you guys just can't appreciate the pivots. He couldn't appreciate Ben Affleck, and you can't appreciate Taylor. Such a shame.
Well, she's a snake. Like so.
just because people use emojis doesn't make her a snake.
Oh, it did. Okay, so let me explain the Kanye beef real quick.
All right, one minute, go.
1 minute, definitely less than 1 minute.
All right.
Okay, so Kanye's song "Famous" came out last year. Had a line, "I think that me and Taylor might still have sex. I made her famous," or he said, "I made that bee famous." So she took great offense to that in public, and even during her Grammy speech last year, she like pretty much came out and was really against it. Said it's really offensive, and the whole time Kanye and Kim Kardashian are saying that, you know, Kanye called her beforehand, made sure got her okay. They didn't need to, but they still did, and she's just denying it. Then all of a sudden, last year, I can't remember which day. I probably should remember because it was one of the happiest days of the year for me. Kim Kardashian came out and just exposed they had recorded on video their phone conversations with her while on speakerphone, and she had essentially just said, yeah, she's fine with it. Actually, she was happy about it, and she just does like a 180 in public just to kind of carry on this like humble, this little like innocent. She always plays the victim, and when she's not, she's the epitome of Regina George from Mean Girls.
Ooh, what a reference. Okay, I'm going to stop you there because this is not Kim or Kanye versus Taylor. It's just Katy versus Taylor. And since I'm hosting it, I don't want to talk about that.
Team
one,
Katy.
So. All right. Well, thanks for joining, Mock. And yeah, have a good one.
All right. Thanks, man.